If you think about dangerous places to work, the glorious surroundings of the Royal Opera House perhaps don't immediately spring to mind.
Yesterday, though, a viola player won a landmark court case after suffering serious damage to his hearing while performing with an orchestra at the historic London venue.
The High Court heard that Chris Goldscheider was exposed to noise of 130 decibels. Now, that's equivalent to a jet taking off, while sitting in the front of the brass section. Now, Dr. Greg Nassar is an audiologist and can tell us more. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's quite hard to imagine 130 decibels. I mean, a jet taking off, what would you be right next to it?
Yeah, it's very loud. 130 decibels is getting to the very dangerous level of exposure, would cause pretty much instant damage if it was.
And what kind of damage are we talking about? Because you brought a model here.
So we've got an image. So the damage we're looking at would be permanent damage, usually to the hair cells in the inner ear, the very fine hearing organ that's responsible for detection and then delivering the sound up to the brain.
And what kind of damage? So we're talking, because you hear about tinnitus, especially musicians stuff.
Musicians that are exposed, anyone who's exposed to significant leisure noise would be prone to hearing loss, tinnitus, loudness discomfort or loudness intolerance or hyperacusis, where sounds that were once tolerable are now intolerable. So everyday sounds like pots and pans, dishwasher, chopping boards, that kind of things will be abnormally loud.
So in this case, we have an orchestra member who's won what's being called a landmark case.
Yes. So
what do you think the implications of this are?
Well, the implications of this is now, reading the judge's report at the end, is that they've now treated noise as, of course, the industry. So whereas in industry, factory-wise, we've got very strict rules about levels at where hearing protection needs to be offered, where hearing protection needs to be mandatory, enforced and audited, whereas these kind of rules have never really applied to the leisure industry.
So you're a doctor rather than a musician, but
Yeah.
Clearly, on the face of it, you're thinking musician clearly needs to hear. You know, you can't, in a factory, you might be able to block out the noise because that doesn't help you in any way. But if you're a musician, you do necessarily have to hear what's going on.
So you need to hear the fine harmonics of your colleagues and, you know, your intros, etc. But there are lots of custom-made music protection with a lovely flat frequency response that aims not to damage or not to attenuate frequencies at different levels. It attenuates everything equally, hopefully maintaining the quality of music. So musicians' earplugs have been very common now for many years, and us at Harley Street Hearing and up here in North West Hearing, we've been issuing these to musicians for many, many years now.
I just wonder, so I'm one of those people who goes to the cinema and actually gets annoyed when they do that whole sound thing. You know, when they say, they demonstrate how good the sound is and it has that big noise.
Yeah, so
for me, it's too noisy.
Too
I'm just wondering about the implications of this. Because if someone's been sat watching an orchestra perform, concert venues need to be thinking about this, cinemas,
so everybody,
concert halls.
nightclubs, you've got to think about your sound engineers, lighting engineers, bar staff, doormen, anyone who's exposed to leisure noise in whatever form is now going to be thinking about whether protection needs to be offered, enforced, whether there are going to be particular levels in particular areas.
So those are people who are repeatedly exposed to this. What about people who are just going to a concert, for example?
People that attend voluntarily, yes, they will be made aware that this was potentially going to be causing damage to their hearing, but of course that's effectively a choice as opposed to a vocation or a work. So,
and is there a kind of sliding scale of which instruments in the orchestra setting, which are the ones that are most likely to damage the ear?
Well, it's not necessarily about the instrument, it's about the loudness. So if the instrument is particularly loud, classically the percussion at the back would be very loud, some of the brass. The strings towards the side will be not quite as loud, but still could get up to dangerous levels. It's not necessarily just about the exposure level, it's about the duration of exposure too.
You're going to come back to us a little later on, I think, as well, aren't you?
Yes.
We will have a trumpeter as well with us on that occasion, so people may have their questions about audio issues, how it affects you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.